men and the different dates and things and events that happen at those dates, and so that people can get a clear timeline and understanding of the Bible that's out here today, so they won't, just be misled or in the dark. So, are we ready to start?
Yes, we are.
Really? Okay, well, let me share this to get started. The Bible is connected with the religion called Christianity. The Quran is connected to the religion called Islam. And the Sefer Torah is connected to the religion called Judaism. So, and then the Veda is connected to the religion called Hinduism and Buddhism. So, each and every man-made created religion has its own unique set of literatures that is created for that particular religion. So, in order to keep the believer in those various religions to have something to hold on and believe in the lie or the mythology that they believe in. So that's what religious literature was created for. That was the purpose for those various different religions that I just named. Now we're going to deal with Christianity. Christianity, or the creation of the non-human created creature called Christ, and the non-human created creature called the Virgin Mary, was created by our African ancestors, the Melchite Coptic Egyptians, at Ephesus, the Council of Ephesus. There were 9 ecumenical council meetings that took place in Turkey, Northeast Africa, today called the Middle East. And at Ephesus is the very most important council meeting that has ever been in existence on planet Earth. Why? Because that's where the created creature, the non-human, like I mentioned, Jesus Christ was created, and the non-human created creature, the Virgin Mary, was created. So now, that is the beginning of Christianity. 431 at the Council of Ephesus, the creation of these 2 created creatures. Now, 101 years later, there was a Christian church. The world's first Christian church was created there in Constantine, Turkey, today called Istanbul, Turkey. And that, I'm talking about the Church of Hagia Sophia. That's the world's first Christian church, or the Church of Mary and Christ. And that church was commissioned to be built by Justinian and his wife Theodora in 532. And they commissioned African architects and builders to design and build that church. And that's what they did. And they finished it December the 27th, 1530. What am I talking about? 537. So they began to build it in 532. They completed it 5 years later, 537. And that church stayed up and running in Constantinople, Turkey, which is Istanbul, Turkey, in Northeast Africa for 902 years until the seat was moved out of Northeast Africa, out of the double-walled city of Constantinople, out of the churches of Hagia Sophia, into on the outskirts of Rome. That was done when John VIII, in 1439, went into Florence, Italy, at the Curia there, Curia, which means college, and transferred that seat out of Northeast Africa, out of Constantinople, out of the Hagia Sophia, and he relinquished what is known in history as the donation of Constantine. Now, the donation of Constantine, I write about in my book, Historical Origin of Christianity. So if one wants to follow up on finding out more about the donation of Constantine, then read my book, The Historical Origin of Christianity. Or either go to and look it up that way. But anyway, that seat was moved into Europe at that time by John VIII, relinquishing the release Constantine, the donation of Constantine, to make way for that transfer. So that was in 1439. But let me go a little further. Before 1439, we're going to go to Johannes Gutenberg in 1437, who invented the world's first printing press for the Europeans. Now, in 1437, called the Gutenberg Press. He needed money to continue to operate, so he borrowed money from a capitalist by the name of Johannes Fust, F-U-S-T. This is in 1437 after he had completed the invention of his printing press with movable print. Now, mind you, the Chinese had invented the first printing press with movable print in the 12th and 13th century. But this is Gutenberg. He was the first one in Europe to create a printing press with movable print, 1437. So that was 2 years before John VIII, like I mentioned before, went into Florence, Italy, and relinquished the seat of Christianity that was housed in Constantinople, Turkey, in the double-walled city, and the world's first Christian church, the Hagia Sophia, where the seat of Christianity was in at that time. So 6 years later, in 1445, on the outskirts of Rome, over the catacombs, Eugenius IV and Nicholas V designated the area to have the Vatican as we know it today and see it today over there. As we see the Vatican today and know the Vatican that's over there today, it is nothing but a replica of the double-walled city of Constantinople, where the world's first Christian church was housed. And that that area over there, that is the Vatican over there, was created and built by African builders, descendants of ancient Egyptians, known in history as the Moors. They're the ones that built the Vatican over there, as you see it today. They built St. Peter's Church in 1445, and they built the Sistine Chapel in 1473. That houses, that's where the Pope's residence is. So they're the ones that created that Vatican, because the Europeans at that time was they were at the beginning of the Renaissance era, the age of learning for the Europeans. So they didn't have that technology to do that. So they asked the Moors to come in from Spain. They were in Spain and from North Africa, those countries along North Africa. They came from that area. They came over there and began to build what is known today and what you see over there as the Vatican. Now, that was in 1445. 30 years later, here comes the world's first printed Bible on planet Earth. Johannes Fust had the control of that printing press because Gutenberg, borrowing the money from him, couldn't pay the interest on that money, so therefore he defaulted. So that printing press was confiscated by Johannes Fust, the capitalist. So the seed of Christianity was in Europe, which is something new to the Europeans. And he knew as a capitalist that this was going to be a big deal to have a printing press that could print up thousands of books and thousands of pieces of literature, as well as knowing that the Renaissance era was already in vogue at that time. Because you are talking about the Renaissance era of Europe, the 1400s and the 1500s, which is the 15th and 16th century. That is the time of the Europeans coming out of the darkness into the light, or out of the dark ages into the light. And that is the Renaissance era, and that's when it started in Europe in 1400s. And Gutenberg and Fust knew that this was a good way way to make money because they had the only printing press with movable print in town. So in 1475, 30 years after the Roman Catholic Church was established, came the world's first printed Bible on planet Earth. And that Bible, the first printed Bible on planet Earth, was printed in Italy, in a city called Bologna, Italy, using the Greek alphabet to do that. And it was formulated by Johannes Rosslin and two of his Italian peers, Lucero Ficino, Pico della Mirandola. Those are the three men that formulated that Bible to be printed using the material of Moses' Maimon called Maimonides. Moses' Maimon called Maimonides wrote the first 5 books of the Bible that is out here today in the world. This is named for him. Of course, you know, from the time that he wrote the first 5 books of Moses, which was between 1168 and 1180, that's been over a couple of thousand years ago, almost a couple of thousand years ago. That Bible has been changed, and his writings has been tampered with, and things like that. But he was the one that is given credit for the formulation, using the material to formulate that Bible to be printed. Moses' Maimon called Maimonides. Now, the Bible was called the Hebrew Bible, and that was the only Bible on planet Earth at that time. Now, in that time, 1475, the Roman Catholic Church did not have any literature for its object. The object of Christianity is Jesus the Christ. They didn't have no literature for Jesus the Christ. So in 1500, Pope Alexander VI commissioned a European ex-Roman Catholic priest, a playwright at that time, Desiderius Erasmus, to write something on the object of Christianity. And he did just that. It took him 16 years to do exactly that. But on his way of writing that, his Novum Instrumentum in 1516, there was a controversy that broke out in 1510 prior to that. And that controversy is called the Pfefferkorn-Rosslin controversy. Mind you, Rosslin was one of the 3 men that created and formulated that Bible to be printed in 1475. And that irritated the Roman Catholic Church. So when Pope Alexander he called for the destruction, the burning, and the confiscation of all Bibles at that time. And that is known in history as the Pfefferkorn-Rosslin controversy of 1510. And then you come up 6 years later, that's when Erasmus came out with his Bible, which is called the Novum Instrumentum, or the Synoptic Gospel. The Synoptic Gospel consists of 3 Gospels, Mark, Matthew, and Luke. And they always tell you that John came later, but John did come later in the King James Version of 1611, which we will get there. But Erasmus was the first human on earth to propound what is known as the New Testament, and that was for the purpose for the Roman Catholic Church. So when he came out with that Synoptic Gospel, or the Novum Instrumentum, which is called Kid Literature also, Kid Literature, which means the source. And when he came out with that in 1516, he also came out and created 6 more manuscripts to add to the 3. 1 and 2 Peter, 1 and 2 Corinthians, and Galatians, and Epistles to the Romans. Those are his 9 manuscripts that he came out with. Now, they always tell you that John came later, which is true, like I mentioned before. So that's the contribution that Erasmus produced in 1516, called the Novum Instrumentum. In 1519, they changed it to the Novum Testamentum. In 1535, they changed it to the New Testament. So this is where you get the New Testament from. So Erasmus is credited for that. Now, let's go back 9 years later. It's 1525. One of Erasmus' dear friends, a man by the name of William Tyndale, they were personal friends. He was the one, an Englishman, he was the one to first translate the Bible into English in 1525. 2 years after he did that, a theologian by the name of Jacob Van Lansfeld in 1527 put the 2 books under one cover, and they dropped the Hebrew Bible, naming the Old Testament as we know today as the Hebrew Bible. He dropped that name and began to call it the Old Testament, and he put the New Testament that Erasmus has written all under one cover. So today we have a Bible that consists of 2 sets of books, Old Testament and the New Testament. And that was done by Jacob Van Lansfeld in 1527. Then we're going to go into the area of where Miles Coverdale in 1539 created 3 Bibles. One Bible that he created was the Great Bible that he dedicated to Henry VIII. And the second Bible that he created was called the Cranmer Bible. That was that he dedicated to Thomas Cranmer, who was the ecclesiastical advisor to Henry VIII. And the third Bible that Miles Coverdale created was called the Geneva Bible. Now, what he did in dedicating the Great Bibles to Henry VIII and dedicating the second Bible that he created to Thomas Cranmer, his Henry VIII's ecclesiastical advisor, because Thomas Cranmer advised Henry VIII to break away from the Roman Catholic Church after the Roman Catholic Church refused to give him sanctions or give him a pass to divorce his wife, Catherine, in order to marry his lover, Anne Boleyn. So Thomas Cranmer told him, said, well, if they won't give you the okay to divorce Catherine, then just break away from the English Church. To break away from the Vatican Church, which is the Roman Catholic Church. So this is exactly what he did. And when he broke away from the church, he began to form what is known as the Church of England, which was housed in his castle, his home, the Church of England. So that's where those Bibles come in 1539 by Miles Coverdale. From 1539 to 1541, he wrote those 3 Bibles. And in 1582, the friars, those Roman Catholic friars there in France, came out with the Douay Bible, which was a censor Bible that it was censored because there in Rome censored the Bible to make sure that things that the Pope wanted to be known to the public is in that book, and not things that he didn't want to be known to the public not to be in the book. So it's called the Censored Bible of the Friars of 1582. Now they came up with a form of a New Testament. The French friars of the Roman Catholic Church did, 1582. In 1610, they came out with the Old Testament of the Douay Bible, and that was also censored by the Pope. Then a year later, in 1611, came the King James Version that was created and dedicated to King James by Sir Francis Bacon and Lancelot Andrews. They are the ones that created that Bible called the King James Version, and in the King James Version, the fourth Gospel came out, which is the Gospel of John. So that is giving you let's say a roadmap and a way of knowing how the Bible was created and how it was how it progressed through and over the time of years. So, Brother Fahim, Brother Alim, I turn it back to you.
All right, we do have a question, Baba. One of the questions is Islam created by the Vatican?
It's what, Islam?
Yes, was Islam created by the Vatican?
No. The Vatican didn't create anything, really, so far as literature or a religion, because the Vatican, as we know today, is the second seat of Christianity. So it houses Christianity and the popes over there, who sits on the throne in the Vatican as the vicar of Christ. The word vicar means the same as Christ, representing Christ. Now, getting back to the creation of Islam. Now, you have, like I asked people, they want to talk about Islam, or they ask me to debate them on Islam, which I don't debate anybody on any religious ideology. But to answer your question, is that you have two forms of Islam out here today. You have Mohammedanism, and you have today's Islam created off of and by way of the Quran. You have the Quran. The Quran is the book that created today's Islam. Mohammedanism was created by Ibn al-Arabi, alias Muhammad. That's in my book, The Historical Origin of Islam. I read about the life and the biography of Ibn al-Arabi, alias Muhammad. So, getting back to your question, you take like the Moors in Spain. They practice Mohammedanism. They didn't practice Islam as we know it today. They practice Mohammedanism because Ibn al-Arabi, alias Muhammad, died in 1240. And a year before he died, his disciples went around in Northeast Africa and in Egypt, spreading and talking about his philosophy, spreading his philosophy. 61 years later, here comes the Ottoman Turks, who created what is known in history as the Ottoman Empire. That was in 1300. 61 years later, or 60 years after the death of Ibn al-Arabi, alias Muhammad. And they went up to their people that they had under their rulership, which they had usurped most of the Byzantine Empire from the Byzantine Emperor, except for the double-walled city of Constantinople. And they went up to their conquered, or the people living in the territory of whom they took this land from the Byzantine emperors and went up to these people living in these areas in Egypt, Northeast Africa, and walked up to them with a sword and said, "Muhammad or die." And quite naturally, the people that we know today, or our ancestors that we know today as the Moors, who are descendants, direct descendants of the ancient Egyptians, and the name Moor is only a nickname anyway. So they were caught up in that Mohammedanism also. So therefore, you see today, as you progress in history, coming up to today's time, you read about the Moors. Some people mislabel the Moors as saying that they practice Islam. They didn't practice Islam, they practice Mohammedanism. Islam today was created by the AIU, Alliance Israelite Universal of Paris, France, who in 1870 sent a Jewish group of scholars into Syria in 1870 to create literature for the Mohammedan world. Okay? This is in 1870. So, and 49 years later, in 1919, the Mohammedan world accepted that writing. And that writing is called the Quran. In today's Quran, you see, interspersed in today's Quran, you see Jewish literature, the Psalms, and other Jewish writings interspersed in today's Quran. And you also will see the four Christian Gospels in there today as I speak. So the answer to your question is today's Islam was created, like I mentioned, by the Quran, that was created by the Jewish writers coming out of France, the AIU, the Alliance Israelite Universal of Paris, France. That's my answer.
Excellent answer.
Brother Lane?
Yes, I'm here.
Huh?
Yes, I'm here. I said
okay.
excellent answer, Baba. Let me see.
Thank you.
We also have let me see another. Brother Reginald Wade. He said that your historical origin of Islam was a life changer for him. It's a masterpiece.
Oh, wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
That's wonderful.
Mm-hmm. So, of course, we know, as you already broken down, that another question was by Isabel. She said, what does the Vatican study? Of course, I know you go into the Coptic. So you want to go into that information on what the Vatican studies?
Well, how do you mean by what the Vatican study? I got to understand that question better.
Okay.
I'm understanding it now. So,
right.
What do they study?
Well, where do they get the majority, the vast majority of their information from? Of course, you deal with a lot of this in your historical origin of Christianity, but, these are just some of the questions that's coming through. So whatever answer that you can give would be fine.
Okay. Well, you got to understand this. In 1453, or let's go back to the beginning of the world's first Christian church, which I mentioned before, was a church named the Hagia Sophia that was built during the time of Justinian I and his wife Theodora, who commissioned African architects and African builders to design and build that church in 532, and they finished it in 537, December 27, 537. And that church was also was the world's first university for white male students. They only handpicked white male students to come into that church to study. And the faculty of the church school university was all staffed by African scholars, because our African ancestors, the ancient Egyptians, were by being the world's first and oldest civilization, and also being the first literate people on planet Earth, Why? Because they created an alphabet to make themselves literate. Because when you go to school, the first thing you learn is an alphabet, and with that alphabet, after you learn it, you're able to read, write, and spell. So it makes an individual literate. So they were the teaching faculty at the Hagia Sophia, the world's first Christian church, and the world's first university for European hand-picked males. Now, over the course of the years, which I'm talking about 902 years in existence before that seat was moved out of Northeast Africa, out of double walled city of Constantinople. Constantinople today is Istanbul, Turkey today. Within that 900 years of operating there in Northeast Africa, they had accumulated a lot of material, and they accumulated a lot of artifacts housed in that church over there. So when the Ottoman Turk, under the name of Muhammad II, took a cannon and blew a hole on the wall to enter the double walled city of Constantinople in 1453, he seized the Hagia Sophia, the Church of the Holy Wisdom, or the Church of Mary and Christ. And he changed it and made it into a mosque. On my cover of my book, The Historical Origin of Islam, you see 3 minarets there. That was the doing of, they say, Muhammad III, when he entered Constantinople and seized the Hagia Sophia. And over the years, his descendants began to put those minarets around that church, and they changed it into a mosque. So prior to 1453, I said that John VIII in 1439 went into Europe and transferred that seat from Northeast Africa so it can be transferred into Europe during that time, 1439. Now, a little prior to that, knowing that the Ottoman Turks was going to come here, prior to 1439, and especially after the Vatican was established in 1445, they began to come back into Constantinople, back into Northeast Africa. I'm talking about the Roman Catholic Church. They came back into Northeast Africa, back into Constantinople, and went into that church. They took out all of those scrolls and all of those artifacts out of the church, and they took it back into Rome and put it and housed it in the Vatican. Today, as I speak, you have a Vatican library, a Coptic library in the Vatican. The Coptic word Coptic means a direct descendant of the ancient Egyptian. And you also have a Coptic museum over there that houses the same artifacts that was taken out of the Hagia Sophia. So, and then the library houses the literature that was taken out of the Hagia Sophia. And today, I don't know if they changed the rules or not, but when I checked maybe about 5 or 6 years ago, in order for you to go into the Vatican library, you have to have a letter from a reputable university that the Vatican recognized as being reputable. And also, this individual with this letter from this university has to have residence in Rome for a year. Now, with those two things, now he can go up into the Vatican, up into the library, and present his residency for a year in Rome, and the letter from the university that the Vatican will recognize. Now, but before he go into the librarian is going to ask him, what are you looking for in this library? and he's got to tell him what he's looking for, etc., etc. And then he was allowed in there, and then when he finds out what he wants, then he has to come back to the library and show him what he got and what he's taken out of there. So that's how close to the watch it is. See? So that's how the Vatican Library was created by, and the Vatican Museum was created by the Europeans creating and developing the Vatican, went into Northeast Africa and the Church of Hagia Sophia, where ancestors had been teaching for 902 years before the seat was moved, and they came in and took these things out. So I hope that will answer her question.
I believe that it does, Baba. We have two more. We have two more questions here. One of the questions was that you've often stated that the Metra Netra was never translated, and if it was never deciphered or translated, how can you prove that?
Well, you prove it actually with common sense. You got pictorial symbols that were drawn by our ancestors, the ancient Egyptians, in Egypt during the time of antiquity. Those pictorial symbols, people of the world today have seen the drawings of those pictorial symbols known as the hieroglyphics, or the hieroglyph, Metra Netra hieroglyph, that's the term you want to use. And those pictorial symbols were drawn by our African ancestors during the time of antiquity. Now, some scholars said that there are 400 glyphs, 600 glyphs, some say, 1,000 glyphs, some say, 1,500, some say, 2,000, some say, and today there's a group out there who is repudiating me. I won't go into that. They say it's 700 glyphs. Okay, fine. No, I have no problem with that. But every time I went to take a hieroglyphics class at the University of Chicago, I went over there, and something came over me and said, well, something is wrong here. You know. So, and then I took another class under Jacob Carruthers at the Inner City Studies here in Chicago. And the same funny feeling came over to me. So I had to pull myself aside. Now, I'm saying to myself, what is wrong here? You see? I came to realize, using my common sense, and also, let me tell you, before I use my common sense, what the teachers, a man by the name of Peter Piccioni, who was teaching over the University of Chicago, hieroglyphics. Me and one of my students went over there to take his class, and before we took his class, we asked him some questions. Professor Piccioni, do you think, in your opinion, that the hieroglyphics has been deciphered? And he says, yes. I said, based on what? And that startled him. I asked him, based on what? Then he started, on and hemming around, and he didn't come up with a direct answer. So finally, after pressuring him, because now this is very bad for a teacher that's going to teach a 12-week course on the deciphering of the hieroglyphics, to be in a position like this to say, no, they have not been deciphered. Frank Yorko, the same thing happened to him when we pressured him and confronted him about the hieroglyphics. He was a teacher of hieroglyphics over at the University of Chicago. And we approached him the same way. And he had to say, well, no, it hasn't been deciphered. But coming back to my common sense and coming back to, in my book, The Historical Origin of Christianity, if you read my book, The Historical Origin of Christianity, and turn to page 146, it's the appendix section. It says, why the meta-nature hieroglyphs have been deciphered. The first reason, which is commonsensical now, that I give, is that one would have to ask the ancient Egyptians what he or she meant for them to be, who drew those symbols. You have to ask the ancient Egyptian what he or she meant for them to be. A symbol, you cannot put an alphabet to a symbol. A symbol can only be explained if you know the meaning of the symbol. Then you can explain it. No matter what language you speak. If you know the meaning of the symbol, you can explain it. Now, for instance, Brother Alim, if I drew a symbol right now, and you and I are sitting in the same room, and I show you the symbol that I've drawn, and I ask you, Brother Alim, what is the meaning of this symbol? Could you tell me the meaning of it, Brother Alim?
Probably not. Only if I was in the same room, like you said.
What would you have to do to understand that symbol?
We would have had a conversation prior to doing it.
Now you have to. I drew the symbol. Is that right?
Right.
You don't know the meaning of that symbol, do you?
No.
You have to ask me what I meant for it to be.
Right.
Is that correct?
Right.
That's common sense.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I said in my book. Okay?
Right.
Number 3, individual, no matter what state he lives in, if he drives a car, he goes to that state to take the state's driver's test to get a license to drive in. Now, when you apply for your license, you're tested in 3 things: eyesight, rules of the road, and symbol.
Mm-hmm.
When you get to the symbol, they ask what? They ask you the meaning of the symbol.
Right.
Okay? They don't ask you they ask you to explain the meaning of it. If you don't explain that meaning of that symbol, you don't pass the test. You see?
Right.
So, then I come up to the 4th commonsensical thing. That everybody knows the symbol of the question mark. Is that correct?
Right.
So therefore, that question mark, when you see that symbol, the question mark is telling you what? It's telling you to ask questions.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
Right.
That's the symbol is telling you that.
Right.
And if you know that symbol, then you know what that symbol means to ask questions. So I won't go on any further. If the individual wants to hold on to that the hieroglyphs, and then the hieroglyphs has been deciphered, then I ask them based on what? And to bring me some symbols before me and explain to me how you decipher the symbol. That's my answer.
Okay. Appreciate that, Baba. We have another question. It says, why do you feel that the word more is a nickname?
You said, why is the more is a nickname?
Yes.
Okay. Now, let me explain that to you. You got to understand this. This is very, very important to understand. That the people that are known as the Moors is nothing but a direct descendant of the ancient Egyptians.
Right.
Okay? Now, I'm going to explain that. You take the Nile Valley civilization, consists of 9 countries that makes up that Nile Valley civilization, which is Uganda, Ethiopia, the Sudan, which is Nubia, ancient name for Nubia. Abyssinia is ancient name for Ethiopia. Egypt. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4 with Egypt. Then you go west of Egypt along the Mediterranean, and you come up to Libya, is next to Egypt. Tunisia is next to Libya, Algeria, Morocco, and Mauritania. Those are the 9 countries that make up the Nile Valley civilization. I call it the African ancient Egyptian Commonwealth. Okay, so therefore, when the Spanish European white Spanish speaking people they ask I'll use the term Moor, to come and bring civilization to them. The reason why I say they asked, because they were not invaders or terrorizers. You cannot civilize and terrorize at the same time. The two don't go together. So, these Africans who are coming from North Africa, who are part of the Nile Valley civilization, who is part of the African ancient Egyptian Commonwealth, who is a direct descendant of ancient Egyptian, they use Morocco. This is very important now. They use Morocco to depart from Morocco to enter Spain. Why? Because Morocco is a country that has the Strait of Gibraltar is there. It has more land area that jets out into the Mediterranean than any of those other North African countries bordering the Mediterranean. And that little offshoot, which is called the Strait of Gibraltar, takes one on land all the way until you get to the end of that strait, and there is 8.9 miles of water that has to be crossed before you can get into Spain. You see, and when they came into Spain using the country of Morocco, like I just mentioned, these white Spaniards called them black Moors. And the word black in Spanish means Negro, synonymous. Negro and black is one and the same. Now you have another misleading Moor out there. It's called the Saracen Moor. Never been a Saracen Moor. I write about that in my book, The Historical Origin of Islam, I think, in 3 places. They say that in 711, the Saracen Moors entered Spain and brought Islam in there, which is historically incorrect, and that they terrorized and conquered and terrorized the Spanish-speaking people, all the way up until the point of invading into France, because France is borders Spain, and that they were turned back by Charles Martel. Okay, now that's the story that's attached to the Saracen. Now I said this: it didn't exist simply because not as no Moors. It didn't exist because if they had conquered Spain, a conquered people takes on the conqueror's language, spoken language. So therefore, the conqueror don't take on the conquered language. The conqueror takes on the conqueror's language. See, so in Spain today, and the Moors was over there, and they never conquered over there. They were asked to come over there. And that's the reason why the Spanish-speaking people have their language today. Plus, our ancestors are not terrorizers. They're not. They're civilizers. So you can't civilize people and then terrorize them at the same time. The two don't go together. So that's the reason why I said that the Moor, the name Moor, or the Moors, is nothing but a nickname and an African who's a descendant of the ancient Egyptians, using Morocco to depart in and make their entrance into Spain by way of, because in Morocco, today as I speak, has more land area that jets out into the Mediterranean. That land area is called the Strait of Gibraltar, which takes you closer to Spain than any of those North African countries bordering North Africa. When you get to the end of that strait, you have 8.9 miles that will take you by boat into Spain. So that's my answer. Brother Alim?
Appreciate that, Baba. We don't have any other questions at this particular time. Is there anything else that you would like to elaborate on?
Well, since you brought that last question up, it's a good thing that the people in the Moorish science community who follows the teachings of the Honorable Noble Drew Ali, which is good because it's my opinion, without Noble Drew Ali, I think that the Moors would be eliminated because the Europeans tried to do that in the first place. So, but I think I want to say this to the Moorish science followers of Noble Drew Ali, is that what you're teaching is okay, but I want you to find your way back to ancient Egypt and connect yourself with the ancient Egyptians, your ancestors. World's first and oldest civilized people who brought civilization to all of humanity, who created all forms of mathematics, who created the first alphabet, who built the Great Pyramids, the Sphinx, and so forth and so on. Domesticating the earth, domesticating animals, creating farming, agriculture, and so forth and so on. So, go back there. That's where your greatness is lying. I'm not, saying what you are teaching is wrong or anything like that. I'm saying that I would like to see the Moorish Science Institute to try to relate themselves as Moors to their ancestors, our African ancestors, the ancient Egyptians, and that will strengthen your teaching. Okay? And also know that the name Moor is only a nickname. Because I just explained it to you how it became a nickname.
Well, I definitely agree with you, Baba. It would strengthen the information. And plus, anyone who studies the Moorish Science Temple of America information, Prophet Noble Drew Ali states specifically that he was an Egyptian adept. So he takes us back to Egypt, but it's the people who have a failure of understanding, the information. So the people suffer, because they have people, who sit at the head position who don't know Egyptology or chematology or any type of information like that, and only thing they know is what was bought, or taught, in the Moorish literature, the Moorish, the Moorish questionnaire 101 or 102, or even the Moorish Holy Quran Circle 7, So I definitely agree with you, Baba. I know that's what we do. We attempt to take it back to that information back to ancient Egypt.
Yeah, so you have to use the term ancient Egypt because the world populace, the people of the world today know our ancestors as the ancient Egyptians, those Africans. You have to specify Africans because you got those Europeans over there in Egypt today with those white faces saying that they're Egyptians, which they are because they live in Egypt. But their ancestors did not build the Great Pyramid. Their ancestors did not bring civilization to this whole entire world and so forth and so on. Our African ancestors did that, so we have to stress and point out and make sure that we use the word Egypt, ancient Egypt, African, ancient Egyptian. We are descendants of the African ancient Egyptian. Okay? I could make a suggestion. I'm not telling people what to do. My suggestion is not to use Kemet. That's misleading. It's confusion, especially the young people coming up. They don't know whether it's Kemet or Egypt. They don't know. They're mixed up. But the strongest name out there is Egypt. Then they say, well, that's the European, the Greeks. That's the Greek name. No. When the Greeks, Alexander the Greek came into Egypt in in 332 BCE. They forced the Greek language on our African ancestors, the ancient Egyptians. By them being a literate people, they learned that language and they applied an alphabet to that language, which is known as the Greek alphabet. So the Greeks never had an alphabet, but the language that was spoken by the Greeks, an alphabet was applied by our ancestors, the ancient Egyptians. So therefore, while speaking Greek, they were asked, "Who are you?" They said, "We are Egyptians, Egyptos, Egyptos," so forth and so on. So that's where the word Egypt comes from. You're giving the European too much credit. He couldn't read or write. He came from an area of the world that was void of literacy, void of knowledge. He was living in the Dark Ages. That's what the Renaissance era came about for, to take him out of the Dark Ages, to bring him into the light in the 1400s. And Manuel Chrysaorus, an African, since we're on this subject, an African by the name of Manuel Chrysaorus in 1397, who was born in Constantinople, Turkey, Northeast Africa, where the Hagia Sophia was built. He was a teacher in the Hagia Sophia in Africa. He came from Constantinople and went into Florence, Italy. It's a curia there. The word curia, C-U-R-I-A, means college. And he was the one that went into that dark room in Europe and hit the light switch and turn it on in 1397 to start the beginning of the Renaissance era for the Europeans. And he began to teach the rudiments of the Greek alphabet to a handful of students there, male students. They didn't allow women to go to school back then, you see. So that's a little history that one should know in our community about our ancestors. Strongest to use the term Egypt, ancient Egypt, okay? Call our ancestors ancient Egyptians, African ancient Egyptians. Our ancestors are the ones that brought civilization to this world. You use the word Kemet. I asked an individual, "Can you show me on the world map where I can find Kemet?" They said they can't do it. It's not there. That's true. Can you show me an artifact that came from Kemet? They can't do that either. Can you show me any art that came from Kemet? They can't show me that either. Can you show me any literature that came from that? They can't show me that either. So don't use that. I'm not telling people what to do. You do what you want to do. This is my suggestion. Don't use that because you diminish the strength of our ancestors, because our greatness as an African people is lying in the continent of Africa unclaimed, because we have been torn away from ancient Egypt on purpose to get us away from our greatness. But our greatness is lying in the continent of Africa unclaimed. We have 50 or more million Africans living in this country. We are the strongest and the greatest African and the most influential Africans living on this planet today. We are called Negroes. But we, as Negroes, blacks, African Americans, don't have no national identity. That is what's lacking. One of the things that's lacking in our community. We need a national identity to identify ourselves with, to identify our greatness, to identify our ancestors. So if you went back to Africa today, there's no place for us, 50 or more million of us in this country, to say, "Hi, go to Nigeria. We're home." It's all occupied. You can't go to Ghana, you can't go to Zimbabwe, you can't go to no place in Africa. Mali, no place. But there's one culture where all of civilization came from, where mathematics came from, where all of the civilization that we use today all came from that one source, that one culture. And that was the culture that was created by our ancestors, those Africans living in the continent of Africa, in a country called Egypt. From their culture came the rudiments of civilization, mathematics, domesticating the earth, so forth and so on. You see that? So we have to get back to our graves. We don't have a national identity. We identify ourselves as being black. That's the color. Negro, that's the description. African American, that's the description. We have to have a national identity where we can, all 50 million of us Africans in this country have to claim ancient Egypt in order for us, one of the first of the 5 or 10 steps for us to get out of this dilemma that we are in this country today. So that would be my answer, Brother Alim.
All right, Baba. There's another question here. The question is that in the book, When the Rocks Cry Out by, let me look what the book is by. But let me see. I had the question right here. Okay, there we go. All right, in the book, Rocks Cry Out, it is mentioned that this is Egypt here because of the 18 temples that's in the Grand Canyon being of ancient Egypt historically. Do you have any information on that?
I don't understand the question, but repeat that again.
So there's 18 temples. There's 18 temples in the Grand Canyon in which that the Albion or European recently stated that belongs to the ancient Egyptians and that they was here in the Americas. Do you have any information on that?
You mentioned Albion, you said?
Yeah, the European. He stated in many articles. One book is called Historical Cover-Ups. Is by David Childress, in which that I know he states that there's 18 temples in the Grand Canyon in which that was developed, designed, and spearheaded by the ancient Egyptians.
Okay, I can, if that's true, I can understand why he's making a statement, simply because you got to remember now, when in 1492, when the Moors were dispelled out of the Vatican and out of Spain, coming over on into the Americas with this Christopher Columbus, they found indigenous native Indians here, and they also found Africans living here in this hemisphere, the Americas. So therefore, our ancestors, by them being civilized as they are, they built boats, they built all kinds of travel things to travel in, and one of the things was the boat. So they went around the world spreading their civilization among the people whom they met. So I'm not surprised at what you're making a statement that this man wrote in his book and stated that about these temples in America, because we're over here way before Christopher Columbus came here. Christopher Columbus discovered America. Yes, he did, for white people, because America was not lost. The indigenous Indian was over here, and the African was already over here before he even got here. Christopher Columbus discovered America for white people. Now, if you get a book, if we're talking about a book, get a book called America BC by Barry Fell, F-E-L-L. And he, in this book, America BC, he'll tell you about different artifacts found all over America to attest that our ancient Egyptian ancestors were already over here in the Americas.
True.
Before any European ever thought about this land area over here.
True. I have the book.
What was that?
I said, exactly, Baba. I have that book.
You have that book?
Yes, I do.
Okay, well that book will answer that question for whoever asked that question. If they can get that book, they can clear it up. But my answer to that is that before living over here in North America and the Americas were Indians indigenous, native Indians, and Africans. In fact, about 10 years ago, they had an exhibit in the Mexican neighborhood of Chicago, the Hispanic neighborhood in Chicago, called Africa's Presence in Mexico. So my wife and I, we went to see it. The exhibit was a very interesting exhibit. And it's telling you how the Africans were already over here in this hemisphere. So that would be my answer. And I'm not surprised that these temples were there, because we were already over here before the Europeans ever discovered this land area. That's my answer.
Someone asked, what's the name of the book again, Baba?
America BC by Barry Fell, Fell.
All right. Any other questions?
You talking to me?
No, I'm asking the chat.
Okay.
All right, Baba. Anywhere else you want to go with it?
Well, do you have anything that you want me to talk about, or if they want to call in, they can and ask me questions, or they want to, text me in, they can do that too. Right. I'm here.
Right. Well, I mean, right now, there's no other questions, Baba. You did your thing, and you answered the questions. Is people just go back and listen to the hour, that we've been on or so, I think they will get their questions answered.
Okay. Well, we can talk about let's talk about God.
All right. Well, before we get to God, here go one. Says the Moors. It says, what do you think about the Moors losing their ability to erect magnificent buildings, being that most of the castles was built, as you said, Vatican was built by the Moors?
Okay, give me that question
again. What do you think about the Moors losing their ability to erect magnificent buildings?
They never lost their ability to do that. They're the direct descendants of ancient Egyptians.
Mm-hmm.
People ask me, well, I was seeing ancient Egyptians around. You see it every day. You use it every day. You use everything you use today that you, as a civilized person, you're using the things that came from the culture of ancient Egyptians. So they never, you take like the dome that's on the Hagia Sophia, on my book. There's a picture of the Hagia Sophia with that dome on there. That same dome, you find it on St. Peter's Church of St. Peter's Basilica there in the Vatican, built by the same people, Africans who are descendants of ancient Egyptians. Okay? And you'll find that the Vatican, as you see it today, is replicated after the double-walled city of Constantine in Northeast Africa. And everything was built by our ancestors, those Coptic Egyptians over there. So, and as I go through Chicago today, as I go around the country today, I see replicas all over this country, and especially all in Chicago, evidence of the buildings being designed after the Moorish designs, or the African ancient Egyptian designs. And they're going to take it away from us. They call it Byzantine art or Byzantine building. You see? So the Byzantines were the Romans. Started with the Byzantium, started with Constantine. You see? So what I'm saying is that I see signs of buildings and artifacts and things like that that are still here, still being replicated all over this world. You go into different states of this country, and you see and you find the capital of that state. You go to that capital city where of that state, you see that the capital of the building has a dome on it. It's like the dome that was put. It's in the White House today that was built in 1792 by Moors, descendants of the Moors, descendants of the African ancient Egyptians. They are the ones that built that White House out there. But to tell you, they tell the world, oh, this White House was built by slaves. It's a damn lie. Slaves can't build nothing like that. It was our ancestors, the ancient Egyptians, under domination of the Europeans, who built that and designed that White House with the same dome that you see that's on the world's first Christian church, the Hagia Sophia, over in Northeast Africa, in Istanbul, Turkey today. That dome on the Hagia Sophia, which is the Hagia Sophia in 1932, was changed into a museum. So it's still there as I speak. The dome that's on St. Peter's Church, the one in St. Peter's Basilica, is still there today as I speak, built by the same descendants of the ancient Egyptians. They were descendants of the ancient Egyptians who did that, and their architect is all over the world. Can't get away from it. Like you can't get away from the things that came out of the civilization of the world's first and only civilized people, born civilization of the world. You can't get away from the first thing you learn when you go to school is your alphabet. They came from the ancient Egyptians. They created the alphabet. It was the world's first and literally people on the planet as our ancestors. In order to build any type of building, you have to know mathematics. They created all forms of mathematics to do just that. You, I, Brother Fahim, everyone is listening to this broadcast. People living in this country, over 300, close to 400 million people in this country, they walk around in their pocketbooks and their wallets every day with a dollar bill in their pocket. On the back of that dollar bill, you have a picture of what? The Great Pyramid. Okay? And that shows you how great our ancestors are, how much influence our ancestors have influenced this world. They put it on the back of the dollar bill, and you carry it around in your pocket every day, and at the very top of that pyramid on that dollar is a round orange ball, and that's the position that we, as descendants of ancient Egyptians, have to reach and claim our position in this world among the world of humanity, and take our rightful place at the table of nations among other races of people. Okay? So we have to identify ourselves again as ancient Egyptian descendants of ancient Egyptians or African ancient Egyptians. That's what we have to do. So, and to claim our greatness. So, look at Benjamin Banneker was a Moor. He was direct descendant of ancient Egyptians, but he was a Moor. Like I said, a Moor is nothing but an African who is a direct descendant of ancient Egyptians. The Moor is only a nickname given to these Africans who are direct descendants of ancient Egyptians by the Spanish when they was asked to come into Spain, crossing the country of Morocco, like I mentioned before. You see? So all this is history that's connected together. And they another thing I never heard the brothers who in the more science studies Noble Drew Ali's theology is that like being a Moor, that they never mentioned the Moors building the Vatican. They built that Vatican And in 1478, after the Europeans has gotten everything that they wanted from us Africans, our African ancestors. You know, Europeans, after they get what they want from you, they discard you. So they began to discard our ancestors, dispel them out of Spain and out of the Vatican. They created, Ferdinand and Isabella created what is known as the Spanish Inquisition of 1478. And they also created the Roman Inquisition of 1478, using the same Inquisitor General, Thomas D. Guatemala, to be the Inquisitor General to get rid of the Moors out of Spain and to get rid of the Moors out of the Vatican. And that's where, and our ancestors, those Africans, those ancient Egyptian descendants, known today in history as the Moors, began to come back into Northeast Africa along those countries that is mentioned along the Mediterranean there, including Egypt. They went into Mali and different places like that. Some went into Europe, and they scattered different places. And so they came and was dispersed into the Americas due to the Spanish Inquisition and the Roman Inquisition. The Roman Inquisition, which is meaning the Roman Catholic Church, and the Spanish Inquisition, which means the country of Spain. The Roman Catholic Church had allied with the country of Spain. So the same Inquisitional General, Thomas D. Guatemala, also was used to get rid of the Moors out of the Vatican and out of Spain at the same time. You see? So fast forward to 1619, came the slave trade, the beginning of the slave trade. Who started that slave trade? The Spanish, the Portuguese, and the Roman Catholic Church. Don't leave them out of it either, because they were slave holders, and they initiated us Africans being put into slavery. You see, in 1832, the Roman Catholic Church took 272 African human beings and sold them into slavery to raise money to build Georgetown University in Washington, D.C. That's history. But anyway, I can go on and on and on. But anyway, any other questions? So my answer to that question is that it's all over the world. Can't get rid of that.
Indeed, Baba. I know you want to go into the science on God.
Well, that's just a fill-in until, get some more questions in here.
Okay.
And then I can ask questions, Are there any more?
Some state that allegedly the Moors ran the Atlantic slave trade. What's your thoughts on that, Baba?
Oh, of course. Now, that's foolishness. The Moors were put in, the Africans that we know today as the Moors, who are the direct descendants of the ancient Egyptians. Moor is only a nickname, like I mentioned. A nickname given to those Africans who are descendants of the ancient Egyptians, using the country called Morocco to cross into Spain. No, I don't. No. They themselves were put into slavery. Themselves. The ones that were caught in the slave states in this country were made slaves. Okay? That's the reason why they tell you that this Negro built America. It was the Moors under that name that built America. Built those slave plantations for old Martha and so forth and so on. They were caught up in the slave state. Now you got, during the time of slavery, you had 380, close to 400,000 free Africans living in this country. If one would see a movie called 12 years a slave. How they took this young man who was free, living in New York City, had a beautiful wife and two beautiful children. He was a music teacher, and he was met at a restaurant, a bar, whatever the case might be, with two white men. They drugged him, and the next thing you know, he was on a slave plantation down south, and he stayed there for 12 years. So it shows you that all Africans in this country during the time of slavery were not enslaved. You see? So I don't agree with that we put causing some kind of slavery to our own people. No, that's unheard of. We're not uncivilized people. We're not savages. Only savages put other humans into slavery. Okay, a person who is inferior, who is an uncivilized savage, who is spiritually dead, would do something like that. Our people were civilizers, highly spiritual, and so forth and so on. So therefore, they were civilizers and not terrorizers. I disagree with that.
All right, Baba. Let's see if there's any other questions here. What is the difference between, as you were stating, of the Mohammedans and those who practice Islam? I know you were saying there was a difference between the various Moors. There was two sets of Moors, as you were stating. Maybe that might help clear up the misunderstanding.
Yeah, what now?
You stated earlier in the conversation that there was two sets of Moors. One who dealt with Islam, Mohammedanism, and then the other ones who dealt with the ancient Egyptian mysteries. So what is the difference? Let's talk about that. Maybe that will help clear up the misunderstanding.
What you have out here as a stumbling block and something to keep you from the truth, and that's the Saracen Moor. When you hear that word Saracen or Saracen Moor, that's a decoy.
Mm-hmm.
And when you hear them say that the Saracen Moor invaded Spain, conquered Spain, and went all the way through Spain up into the borders of France, and that they were turned back by Charles Martel, and that they brought Islam into Spain in 1711.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's not true. That's the false Moor. Then you have the real African Moor, and that's the Moor that is a descendant of our ancestors, the ancient Egyptians, those Africans, like I've been talking about all night. Now, let's get back to the Saracen Moor. If he conquered the Spanish people, then the Spanish people would be speaking Spanish anymore. They would be speaking the language of the conquered. A conquered people does not speak the language. The conqueror does not speak the language of the conquered people, but he goes back in reverse. The conqueror language is spoken by the conquered. So that never happened. So Spain and the Spanish-speaking people kept their language intact. Now, number two, you said that the Saracen Moor or the Saracen Moor brought Islam into Spain in 1711. That's not true. Because in 1711, there was no Islam. Today's Islam is based off of a book called the Quran. And I explained how the Quran came about, and I'll explain it again. So therefore, the story goes to make 1711 not true, which, in other words, you had to go back to the story of Muhammad, who was born in Mecca in 570, and he fled out of Mecca in 622. It's called the Hajj, or the Hajj, or whatever the case might be. So in 622, he met an angel called Gabriel, who passed on to Muhammad, who was illiterate, the words that God wanted Muhammad to pass on to mankind. So Muhammad being illiterate, this is how the story goes. He learned what God wanted him to pass on to mankind through the angel Gabriel. And he memorized it by way of mnemonics, which the word mnemonics means memory. And he dictated those memorized words coming from the angel Gabriel to a scribe. And as the scribe put these words down, those words on paper became the Quran. Okay? That was in 622, or the 7th century. In the 7th century, there was no, let's go back and deal with the Quran today. Interspersed in the Quran today, like I mentioned, is two sets of literature. One, the Psalms and the Pentateuch, which is Jewish literature. In today's Quran, interspersed in there is the 4 Christian Gospels. So let's go back to the 7th century, 622, when all this story was supposed to have taken place by the Prophet Muhammad, meeting the angel Gabriel, so forth and so on, thus creating the Quran. Back in that 7th century, or in 622, there was no religion on earth called Judaism. They have any literature. In the 7th century, there was Christianity, yes, but no literature for Christianity until Erasmus came along in 1516. See? 900 years later, and came out with the Noble Mystic that Christianity has literature. So, in 1870, the AIU means Alliance Israelite Universal of Paris, France, sent a group of European scholars, who they call Jewish scholars, to create literature for the Mohammedan world. And they use the model of Mohammedanism. Okay? In other words, they took an old house and they remodeled it. Okay? And they made the Quran out of Mohammedanism. From Ibn al-Arabi, Avis Muhammad, who was a Moor, by the way, born in Spain in 1165. It's in my book, The Historical Origin of Islam. And he, that's where Mohammedanism comes from, after his alias. And there's a lot of things that you can do with an alias. Clayton Moore was the Lone Ranger. His alias was he being the Lone Ranger. Clayton Moore, the movie actor. William Boyd was alias Hopalong Cassidy, another movie actor. Richard Reeves was who? Superman, alias Superman. See? So and then Sean Connery was alias 007, a James Bond. So you can see what you can do with an alias. See, you got a human, and then you got the alias as a character, a non-human. And you can take that alias and you can do anything you want. You make it do anything. You make it jump up and down. You make it jump out of windows and do everything. You see, then things are impossible. You can do that with an alias. Now, Ibn al-Arabi, you read my book, Historical Origin of Islam. I'll tell you the 3 books that he created. The Futuhat, and the Hakim, and the Bezels of Wisdom. Those are his 3 writings that he created over there during that time. Over in Egypt, he came from Spain into Egypt and into Northeast Africa. And if you read the book, my book will explain to you, because I write about the biography and life of Ibn al-Arabi, alias Muhammad. And those Jewish scholars in 1870 used Mohammedanism and remodeled it and came out with a Quran. They parallel different things. I show you the parallel difference between the 2 religions. Okay? Now, they did that. This Jewish group out of Paris, France, the Alliance Israelite Universal of Paris, France, did that. Why? In 1870? Because they wanted to create literature for the Mohammedan world by them doing what? They wanted to make sure that they did it. Because in the 3 major Western religions today, Christianity, Islam, and Judaism, you have one character in that keeps the 3 religions together, which is the character named Abraham. It was those Jews that had to make sure that Abraham was in that literature, because if you read the Quran today, Abraham is in there. And that's the reason why it was done and how it was done. You see? So, I don't know if that answers the question or not, but I think it does. But that's the difference between the 2 and how they both came about.
Well, it definitely fills in a lot of the points that is needed, Baba. I don't have any other questions at this time. Any closing remarks?
What was that now?
I stated I don't have any other questions at this time. Are there any closing remarks on your behalf?
I can't understand what you said on the last.
Do you have any closing? Do you have any closing remarks?
Oh, closing remarks. Okay. Well, certainly that you gave me an opportunity to come on your program to speak to our people once more, and to try to bring some wisdom to the things that I was speaking about, new information that will provoke thoughts for them, and to clear up things that they may have as a misunderstanding, and to expand their knowledge by evolving into the expansion of their knowledge. So I hope that I brought some information that will help spark that and do that to our African community. So if an individual wants to contact me, you can contact me by way of my email. My email address is ancientegysn@msn.com. Ancient, ANCIENT, Egyptian, EGYPTIAN @msn.com. When you email me, put your phone number there if you want to further converse with me, have a conversation. Put your phone there, phone number there, and I'll call you back and we can take it from that point. Now, my 2 books that I mentioned, The Historical Origin of Christianity, it's been out for 25 years, selling all over America, in the UK, in the Caribbean, etc., all English-speaking countries. The thesis of that book is saying that there's never been a man that ever walked earth in human form, been a race, creed, or color by the name of Jesus Christ. Never existed. The second book, the Story of Islam, has been out for 15 years, is selling in the same places that I mentioned about the Christianity book. The thesis of that book is saying that there's never been a man that ever walked earth in human form by the name of a Prophet Muhammad of the Islamic tradition. Never existed. So you can purchase those books either Amazon, Barnes and Noble, or any African bookstore in your community. And then they will send you the books out, and you can go from there. So that is some of the closing remarks that I have to make at this time. And maybe next time we get into who's this man called God.
All right, definitely, Baba. We can't wait for that one. And I said we can't wait for that one, so we definitely want to hear that one. Yeah, no doubt about that. And you got a good response here within the chat room. Everybody appreciate you giving out that information. It's needed information. It's information which that they didn't have, and which that helps connect a lot of the information concerning what happened in ancient times, and how we ended up in the position in which that we are actually in now. Um, Someone asked a question though. It says Yusuf ben Pandora. Uh, I guess we can come back with that when we talk about the man named God. But the question was Yusuf ben Pandora, the Messiah, 2,000 years ago. But I know that's something in which that they probably have to go and read and study. One of the books that I can give you in which that will help with that would be specifically historical Christ, historical Jesus and mythical Christ by Gerald Massey. You need to go get that book. He speaks about uh, that particular character, and he even comes to the conclusion that he might not even have existed. But that's another story. Appreciate you, Baba, for coming on for the second time. Anything else?
Well, Nancy was right when he said that was mythology. So you got to be very careful about mythology. And in order for you to know whether that's mythology or not, it's best to know history. Dates. See, if a person comes to me and asks me, well, so-and-so, I'm going to ask them, what date are you talking about? So this person that you're talking about is a myth. It says it happened. This person is supposed to walk earth over 2,000 years and mystery man and so forth and so on. See, the world's first religion on planet Earth was Christianity, and Christianity has only been out for 1,587 years. That's how long Christianity has been out in the world. 1,587 years. That's it. You see? So, you have to go into when the Greeks came into Egypt in 332 BCE. You have to understand that our African ancestors, the ancient Egyptians, living in the continent of Africa in Egypt, had created civilization through their culture that had been up and running for 9,668 years before the Greeks ever set foot in Egypt. Like Dr. John Henry Clark would always say, when the Greeks came into Egypt, civilization was over with. When they came in, civilization was over with. So all this other stuff is you got to be very careful of who you're talking about. And I'll have that person that you brought up, Pandora, or whatever his name. First thing I would ask, what year are you talking about? That this individual character supposed to have existed. You see? then I can assess my knowledge of history to that time area. You see? So be very careful, my brothers and sisters in the African community in America and throughout the world. Be very careful that you don't get a hold of mythology and think it's real history, real human history. You know, and you come up short like that, and you waste your life and your time and your energy on mythology, and we don't want to do that. So maybe one day I'll also come on the show and give the 10 steps, the 5 steps of liberation for us Africans born in America. Give them the 5 steps to liberate themselves. See, I can't liberate anybody. Alim Bey cannot eliminate anybody. Fahim cannot eliminate. Oh wow. Cannot bring you out of this confusion. No one can do that but you. Okay? So the liberation has to come from the human being. You see? Like I said, or I always say, that to know the truth will not liberate you or free you because you know the truth. But when you accept the truth, then you become free. Okay? So one day I'll come back and give 5 steps of liberation for the Africans born in America. And maybe another time I'll come back and walk you through the 9 ecumenical council meetings that took place in Northeast Africa. The Council of Nicaea 1325, the Council of Constantine 1381, the Council of Ephesus 431, the Council of Chalcedon 451, the Council of Constantinople 2553, the Council of Constantinople 3680, the Council of Harea, which is one that the Council of Harea, the Ecumenical Council of Harea, I have never heard anyone talk about it but myself. I'm not saying, I'm not trying to put any praise on myself, but I never heard anybody talk about the Council of Harea 754. And then you have that's the 7th council meeting. Then the 8th council meeting was the Council of Nicaea 2787, the Iconoclasm controversy council meeting. And then the 9th council meeting that was held, all these council meetings was held in Northeast Africa in Turkey. Then I go and tell you about the Council of Constantinople 4, the Forces Philippi Ecumenical Council meeting. And break all those council meetings down to you. Maybe I'll do that one day.
That sounds fantastic too. Oh yeah, that sounds
better,
Oh yeah, definitely. That we can't wait for that one either. So we're gonna let you go, Baba. We appreciate you coming on and sharing with us this phenomenal information. Everybody say they enjoyed it, got something from it, they learned a lot. So can't wait to have you on again. So when you're ready, just give me a call and we got you.
Well, when you're ready for me, call me too. It works both ways too.
Okay, all right. That's good too, Baba. Appreciate you.
Yeah, see, so anyway, we'll go from there. And to Brother Fahim, thank you again. And Brother Alim, thank you, of course. And also, I want you to give your wife a kiss for me.
All right. Definitely.
Okay?
Yes.
But I want you to give her a kiss. And you're going to give her a kiss from me, right?
Yes.
But I don't want you to slob all over, okay?
All right, I got you.
That's what my little jokes there. So, So anyway, give her a hug and a kiss for me.
All right.
And I'll see you next time on the same broadcast, and we can go over a lot of historical things that I think that our community is ready for, and they're ready to help them in their liberation, because they're the only ones that can do that.
Right.
Okay?
All
so
right.
with that being said, I said to you and to them, may I hotel.
May I hotel. Peace. All right. So, Now I can answer all of these questions that's been asked. So let's go through them. All right, all right. Um, I don't necessarily agree with the fact that none of the Metronetra has not been deciphered. However, you know, there's a lot of points in which that he makes, in which that we do have to go back and definitely validate. We know that a lot of this information needs to be connected. You know, so we keep doing that. We keep working at it. Jacob Carruthers, he made mention of, who also uh, I studied under his um, head student, who was head of the ASCAT, so definitely, as far as they're concerned, it has been deciphered at least um, enough as far as a language, but as far as the symbolism itself, and what those symbols correlate to, no, we're still, they're still getting a grasp on that. A lot of that information I clear up by the fact of my presentations when I go into explaining the symbology behind a lot of those hieroglyphics or metronetures and how it deals with the physical body, aspects of the physical body. And how we know that that's what was used as a template is because everything that is used is a template of the physical body. Your computer is your imagination. All right. Your camera is your eye, or your TV is your eyes. You know, um, we looking at, or I should say, a fixation. The camera is a fixation of coming through your eyes into your brain, and you taking a snapshot of what is going on. But all of these things are based on your physical body. So that means that the symbolism also will have to be mainly based on the signs of the physical body. So let's clear that up. All right. So once you begin to start studying the physical body and begin to start studying the hieroglyphics, you will see the correlation between the two. Um, all right. Baba already answered the question about Islam was not created per se by the Vatican, even though there are some quote unquote tenets in there. But I also see it as another way. Not only could it have been created by the Vatican, but they used the Jews. The Jews was used, or the AIU, as Baba said, in which that held right portions of the script. Other portions, as we know, had to have dealt with the Catholic Church because they speak of Jesus 25 times in the Holy Quran, and that's more than even the two times of Prophet Muhammad, who was also named Ahmed. So so that's a lot to also break down. Which I will not do at this time. You go and see my video that I've done on Al Islam, on the mysticism of Al Islam. All right, where I begin to start going into that information. And of course, where does the Vatican study? The Vatican studies, of course, with the ancient Egyptians. That's where the information comes from. All major world religions, all right, in their so-called holy books, um, or derived from the tenets or from the actual information that came from out of ancient Egypt. All right. Proof of this, verification of this, or too many to even go over. Just go and study G.S. Mead, um, J. Rogers. What they never told you in history. What they never told you in history class by Endochemic Kush. The Missing Pages of History by Endochemic Kush. Um, Egyptian Yoga Volume 1 by Dr. Muada Ashby. It goes on and on and on. All right. So, uh, you know, those answers are very easy to answer there. Is the Islamic dogma calendar the same as the Islamic religious calendar? Number one, um, the calendar in which that is used within Islam, we know is rather recent. They don't even go back, but to 1,500 years ago. And as Baba Professor Williams broke down, 1,500 years ago, is old as um, the tenets of Islam is. And matter of fact, it wasn't Islam, it was Mohammedism, which is the worship of Muhammad. Muhammad actually is a title which I go over that information on my webpage, Metaphysical and Religious Confusion, which I spoke about last night. All right, so you can find your answer there for that one. Let me see. We can get a copy of the QR Beth. Um, I do not know. That is something in which that Hannibal Bay have spoken of. You probably have to get in contact with him in order to see if he even have an answer for that. I have no idea. All right, Vatican means place of serpent prophecy. Okay, well, Catholicism also means universal church. So the universal church is the serpent. All right, prophecy. And what is that? That is talking about the Kundalini, raising Kundalini. All right, we understand that greater and more than anyone else as we teach occult metaphysics and esoteric teachings here. All right. Some things you ask him, Baba, he's a historian, he's not necessarily a spiritualist. So a lot of the questions that y'all was asking was not on the level for him. I'm pretty sure of it because I've interviewed him many times. So, some of these questions were not for him. You know what I'm saying? Now, if you ask me these questions, it'd be a different story. All right. But this is one of our elders, so I could not and will not turn this into a debate. That's not what we're here for. We're here to gather information and to learn from each other. All right. That's what we're here for. All right. So God has information that I know that I need, you know, and hopefully that you need too from listening to him. You don't have to agree with everything. Some things you keep at the back of your head and see if it comes to fill in another piece. This is how you do research and study. All right. So you can't be an asshole with anyone and with everyone in which that you disagree with. There's a cordial way of just simply letting the information flow, getting it out, and then you just simply say, okay, these are things that I can agree with. These are some things that I cannot. Like brother um Bass L made a good point that epigenetics, in which that is being taught by Bruce Lipton, who brought that to our attention, speaks of how language is encoded within your DNA. So that would mean that, of course, the Metu Neter will be encoded inside your DNA, especially if you are the ancient Egyptian. All right. So once again, that's why I did not necessarily agree with that because I understand, once again, I specifically tie in quantum physics, all right, astrophysics, all right, all of these things, sacred geometry, all of these things into what we call geometria, into the occult, into metaphysics, into esoteric teachings. All right. Whether it's dealing with Kabbalistic teachings, Gnostic teachings, all right, or Sufi teachings. It doesn't matter. All right. So this is what we do know. All right. Let's see here. What's other questions? I already broke down the fact that Moors, Maurs, or Maoru, all right, were the high priests of Anu. And also Maor, all right, was a title too, right? It was a title, all right. So he made a distinction between the Sadducean Moors and the ancient Egyptian Moors. The ancient Egyptian Moors were the Moors, all right, who came from out of Ethiopia, out of the city of Meroe, which originally was called Meru, Meru. And of course, we know that America, that the original application of the name of America is Meru, meaning that the Egyptians were already here, as he made mention of. Of course, he doesn't go back as far as I go, but he verified that that they were. Now, of course, many people speak about Horace Butler's book, and it was a good book. However, you know, I got information which that goes back 600 million years here in the Americas. and specifically speak on the 18 temples built in the Grand Canyon. All right. As I say, David McRitchie, in his volume one, volume two, speaks about the connection between the so-called Native Americans and the Negroes there um, in England, and how both was referred to as Moors. All right. So we just don't say that it was a Spanish word because we know that Moorish Latin is the origin of Spanish. Is the origin of Spanish. However, even before that, we know that Maur, which meant the high priest of Anu, was used in ancient Kemet. We know that even before that, that the word Meru was used in Africa, in Ethiopia, in Abyssinia. All right, these are facts. All right. Um, Let me see. According to Dr. Ben, more African would be a nickname because they verified that Africa, or they allege that the name Africa is from um, Africanus. They are Scipio Africanus. However, Scipio Africanus only conquered Hannibal. All right. Um, it was not named after him. All right. In fact, he was given that nickname because of the conquering of Hannibal the Africans. Right. And so hence his people gave him that the acronym, all right, which is that fourth name, that's what they refer to it as, which is a nickname upon him as Africanus, right, because of his defeat of Hannibal, all right, during the um, second war that they had, all right. So Africa does not come from that. In fact, the word Africa comes from Afra, and of course the symbol of Ka, but Afra actually are symbols on Metu Neter hieroglyphics in Egypt, Kemet, Tamari, all right? And this is where it comes from. Afu meant body, temple, flesh. You're talking about evenly decayed body of Osar, all right? Then Ra, of course, sun, light, and then Ka, spirit. So the bodily temple of this, basically of the sun, of the soul, and spirit. That's what Africa means. So it is not the origin, or did not originate, I should say, with Scipio Africanus or Leo Africanus. Those are things in which that the historians believe at the time, and therefore they stated it in the books, in which that hence, because the Leo Africanus, Scipio Africanus, it became known as a nickname, but originally it was not. All right. Now, of course, Baba was talking about having a national identity. All right, as ancient Egyptians, of course, um, we as Washita, that word itself is Wajeta, and Wajeta is an ancient Egyptian word in which that speaks of the mother goddess principle as the Kundalini and the rising up of that creative force principle. All right, symbolic to the phoenix rising from the ashes, as we would say. All right, and I won't go into much there because I got a video coming out soon, which that we do on here, and which that deals with the Washita, and we'll take you through those ancient connections. As he said, America BC by Barry Fell, a good book in which that you definitely need to get your hands on. Brother Jeremiah, he spoke of that the Libyans, the Phoenician script found here, older than the language they currently speak, right? So that is true. That is spoken of in the book, all right? Yes, we, the Washita, direct descendants of the ancient Egyptians, yes, we're one and the same. But we were the ones who was here millions of years in the Americas before we went into Africa and we drudged the Nile and we asked our Ethiopian ancestors to have that land there. and we went into what we now call the center of the earth, which is Egypt, where we built the pyramids, all right? And it is there that we detail that landmass, all right, or that land area. So we were the ancient Egyptians that was here, as well as the ancient Egyptians in which that was there in Egypt. So the ones in America who built the pyramids here and the mounds here, which some of the mounds and pyramids here dates further back and are older than the pyramids in ancient Egypt, based on the lion ass uh, calculations by the European Albions, or even Awas, you know, um, there within Kemet. All right. Yeah, so let's look. The Mississippians are the Washita, they are the Biloxi Moors, they are the Choctaw, the Tunica, all of us same people, just different names. Don't let it fool you. Don't let it fool ya. Oh no. All right. Saint Germain, yes, was a Moor. All right, Moors running slavery. Okay, let's. uh, I agree with Bob on that one. Now, of course, there was some niggers that was involved, as niggers always involved. Every damn demonstration you see the vast majority of white folks, but then one or two you see sprinkled among them is a nigger. So yeah, niggers always somewhere. You know what I'm saying? But did they dominate? Are they the ones that was behind it per se? Now they might have turned a blind eye to it. You know what I'm saying? Now that's what we do know. They definitely did turn a blind eye to it. All right. What else here? Okay. Okay, Moors and Masonry, very informative. Oh yeah, that's Brother Dewey. Yeah, good book. Seeing what else it is. Seeing what else. Let me see here. Akashic Records. Yes, the Akashic Records. Um, I can't say if he knows what the Akashic Record is or not. But of course we know the Akashic Records. The ethers, uh, Akasha, sky. You know, talking about ionosphere specifically, while our ancestors go up in that, and therefore, if you have your brain, hence mind antenna open and activated, your mind can tap into the ethers or what is known as the Akashic Records, which is the universal library, or basically it's the earth library um, of those who lived here upon this planet from eons and eons ago, as well as those who arrived here from eons ago, as well as the energies in which that comes from outside this plane, planet, dimension, all right, in which that we are able to receive this information. So, in this regard, yes, this correlates perfectly with epigenetics by Bruce Lipton, in which that helps us with deciphering the Metro Nature and everything else. It says, yo, Alim, you can do a show on how the priest, uh, Saharian Twa, venerated the snake for wisdom. Is this why modern religions make snakes look evil? Of course. Of course. In fact, they referred to in Ireland when St. Patrick ran the snakes out of Ireland, the snakes were the Twa people. Look at the small people. You can get this from Ancient and Modern Britons, Volume 1 and 2 by David MacRitchie. All right. We always, um, acknowledge the science of the snake or the serpent, because that was Kundalini, the mother goddess principle, right? We're the ones in which has gotten away from the internal energy because we believe that an external Albion is going to save us, and believe that that belief is more powerful than the energy is inside of you. But yet the Bible, Oral Roberts used to tell you this shit every Sunday. And greater is he within you than he that is in the world. But then when you going to let the he within you work? And then stop being distracted by the shit that's externally in the world. You know what I'm saying? So, these are just some of the keys. All right, we out of here, y'all. As we always say, continue now for days, weeks, months, and years to come. We're moving towards our Pacific goals of enlightenment, peace, security, happiness, and joy. Every action, enterprise, and endeavor in which we wish to be involved is bringing increasing rewards. We have so much abundance and success in our life that we're able to help share with those who are sincere along the way. We're moving closer towards the oneness of God and Goddess and the full release of our higher inner selves. And what I mean by that is that, yes, I'm moving closer towards the God, which is the activation of my pineal gland, my soul, my pineal gland, and of the Goddess, which is the serpent, which is the Kundalini energy inside of me. And they moving closer together to become one. Ashe. Peace, y'all.